Flea Control by Switch from CCRU's Abstract Culture, Swarm Number 3. This text retrieved from CCRU.net. The gorilla fights the war of the flea, and his military enemy suffers the dog's disadvantages. Too much to defend, too small, ubiquitous, and agile an enemy to come to grips with. If the war continues long enough, the dog succumbs to exhaustion and anemia, without ever having found anything on which to close its jaws or to rake with its claws. 1980. Burned out shells of helicopters swallowed by the desert. Chopper War USA, the sequel, has come to the same conclusion as the original. The US, an exhausted dog incubating larvae. UV rays, 10 to the 16 cycles per second. The insect sees on its own color vision. Dying power puppets take note. The only way we're going to win this is on film. As Hollywood revives the body of the despot, new pharaohs emerge from Silicon Valley. Flea Control is power learning its lesson. Metrophage can be caught by surprise once, but not twice. Already occupying the future is the key to counter-guerrilla activity. Recalibrating sights to target insect enemies generates two new strategies. 1. Bug hunts. Laser-guided remote control extermination programs. You're going out to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring them back, but to wipe them out. Ultra-high-tech sci-fi optical space weaponry geared up to fight wars that are clean, only in the sense that they are waged as pest control. The aim is no longer to occupy territory on the ground, but to decontaminate from the sky. Clean sweeps operate from a safe distance. 2. Swarm machine control. Close up, Control X. Haptic space invasion getting under the skin of the enemy. Sticky heat, your blood's sweating now. Can you feel it simmer? Complex chaos management systems operating sophisticated stimulus response feedback circuits. Organized insecurity, programmed catastrophe, unanticipated consequences already dealt with. Populations injected with antiviral agents. Guerrilla tacticians working for absolute peace. SWAT teams, special forces, undercover ops, CIA drug runners. Absolute peace is the same as permanent war. A gray area. New circumstances obtain. Conduits and dams and floodgates have exceeded capacity. Deregulated trade without unions. From Dawn of the Dead to Night of the Living baseheads. Factory farm dead labor decommissioned. And the arteries of the New World disorder flow with post-industrial junk. Capture gets addictive. It works so much better when you want it. Watch yourself. Everyone is rushed to extensive care in comfort-style hyper-regulation. Indefinitely postponed. Take your work home with you. Thermostatic normalization is all part of the service. In case you were wondering, you've been undergoing pollination. Fireflies, strobe, blink, the lights in your eyes. K-Space isn't the promised land, but a battleground. Snakes and ladders played out in 3D. Metrophage's basic problem. What degree of distribution is required in order to keep things stratified? Jungle's basic problem. What degree of stratification is required in order to get distributed? There is no need to fear or hope, but only to look for new weapons. The enemy haunts the virtual, forcing the pyramid to flatten. Control searches for the optimal distribution point for power. But while the state is strapped to the past, the war machine boots into the future. You push the pyramid down and it seeps. The intravenous rush drives open lines of communication. Valves quiver under the strain of stay vacant. Welcome inside. Khaki, color of dust. The only effective way to track your enemy is to become it. Spies have always known this. Narcotic trade is guerrilla swarm machine, becoming imperceptible, becoming flea. but territorial fleas, dog fleas, subterranean networks of molecular distribution, deterritorializing the apparatus of statist commodity control, but reterritorializing its micro-statist Oedipal organized crime syndicates. Statist and micro-statist drug enforcement agencies in ostensible opposition, white economies versus black markets, poles of mutually legitimating cybernetic interaction operating territorial protectionism. Meanwhile, body without organized crime establishes new channels for intensity diffusion. Kaiser Soze is only a name for illicit distribution across K-space. Kobayashi knows that Dean Keaton is as much of a dupe as Michael Corleone. You can't go legit, overwhelming pathos as the Godfather watches mummified Oedipal Euro power decomposing into worldwide webs of corruption. Emilio Jari, P2, Vatican, Calvi, internal third world neo-gangsta sneers at dreams of respectability and innovates connectionist trade routes into the jungle. It all mixes in the blood of the junkie. Stop me when you're wanting more. Then again, I don't want to ask for your opinion. I'm waiting for your cry, your divide, your trembling fingernails. Submission without suppression. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Humiliate me, and I become you, beyond and become control. She lay back and stretched her surfaces so taut there were tears starting to appear. The contours of her throat trembled a silent rosary. She felt the membranes reroute and retasted her cry. She knew she was being probed. It had kept its back to her, but she could so distinctively feel it. Insects under the skin, multiform and maneuvering. The unassignable material saboteur, forever under track by the cult of the detail. Grains of sand transported into the sterility of a lab grown into crystal. Matter molded and carefully distributed takes on the morphology of circuitry. Desert swarm, engulfing sand, more of it than the eye can take in. Visible light, 10 to the 14 cycles per second. You remove your protection to his naked eye, resisting specification, camouflage melting in X-ray optics, 10 to the 18 cycles per second, and your tissues divide. Sand suffocates man, as the sea does, only more maliciously, because more slowly, turning into silicone. Terminal beaches energized by electron flash floods. Human desertion. Wiry sacs carrying the flow of blood. Muscle transformed into tendon. Bones held together by elasticized ligaments. A network of nerves clinging to muscle and flesh. All organized to form a finger. Familiar territory. Grids mapped out onto a slab of plastic. A surplus value of force weights. Poised programmed to understand the weight of flesh on plastic. With each beat of the finger, matter becomes speed. Victory depends on this. An army used to need more typewriters than medium and light artillery pieces. Now computers, ship to soft copy, flashback, 1943. Colossus defeats Enigma. Machines stolen from the future hunt down numbers at rates that shatter human time. Sea space, airspace, K-space waiting in the office from the start, communication seepage in even the most segmented offices. Potential contiguity of all points. Advanced Research Programs Agency Network takes lessons from perverse bureaucracy. Recurring dream space of corridors, where the approach to the castle is by endless detours, but also by unexpected jumps. Another dimension, a sort of adjacency marked by halts, sudden stops, where parts, gears, assemble themselves. Riding the bear, Microsoft war machines pick off Big Blue just in time to make Orwell redundant. After 1980, job security is an archaism. Lumbering, center-heavy Big Daddy mainframes can't respond quickly enough to parasite takeover. IBM Office clones are no different from clock-in, clock-out industry robots, both obsolesced by control phase continuously assessed flex time. Keyboards unpick K-locks, enabling power-to-go Microsoft. Miniaturized, made supple, and all the more dangerous for it. Anthills, the boss's office, is as much at the end of the hall as at the top of the tower. Cold ice, pure terror. Don't let it heat up. Infrared tasting your sweat, warding off explosive hot catastrophe. Televisual capture cools implosion, dissipating injected doses of intensity through a concentric wave refrigeration system. Thermostatic chromatostasis as SimCity dissolves into the actual, inducing the flocking behavior of Goa trance as the sun rises in the east. Actuarial justice. Group risk profiles provide the indicators by ticking the boxes and get selected. Where do you live? Are you married? Got a job? An education? A criminal record? Congratulations, you're selected for incapacitation. Not deterrence, but the manipulation of demographic aggregates. White magic of criminal lotteries, your numbers up. Manage risk and Operation Weed-style technocratic self-perpetuation. Eliminate bottlenecks. Probation and parole to avoid the trial loops. Fast-track prosecution for career criminals. Do you really need guilt anymore? Omnipresent impotence shifts to the infinite surfaces of faceless delegation. Power on automatic pilot. Rogue cells executing command. Cancerous metabolic vehicles with no one driving. What clicks into place, Dealey Plaza, 1963, is a hive assassination weapon. Not a paranoid conspiracy, but a rhizomaniac web. End of level 4, and you find that all along, you've been working for the other side. Control X. The unspecified enemy is user-friendly. In control societies, the key thing is no longer a signature or a number, but a code. Log on, and imperceptible matter throbs with a crazed espionage. With each stroke of the keyboard, we leave our trance. The air is alive with secrets, and everything is a potential resource for the global war machine. The system runs, falters, pauses, flows. It runs under control and over the top, penetrating your every cell, synthetically manufacturing the microphysical fabric. It strokes almost without sensation. Yet she arches her back, craving the touch of a breath. Infested deep-piled jungle requests C3 copter carpet bombing. Pregnant, bulbous, vertical takeoff egg-leg machines sting in the eye with swarming flash attacks. No tears left, only sparks. I've never felt so at home in the midst of the battle. Wars have never been as bloody as they have been since the 19th century. Explicit calculating machines of Microsoft power manage mega violence rather than eliminate the need for it. War provides commercial opportunities for absolute peace. Hardware demonstration exercises generating new input for PlayStation behavior modeling systems. Dromoscopic Vietnam, refought by the film companies, goes intergalactic and aliens. Desert Storm is a sequel. Video capture in the Persian Gulf. Virtual war slams airborne cyberdelianomes against an immobilized, sedentary enemy in UN telespatial media mashup. Mega driving out of history. The Gulf War is not an event, but a CNN-scheduled, Sega reformatable digital scenario, played out for the benefit of data-hungry simulation strategy modules. They arrived within minutes. This time, Chopper War USA is a success. 24-hour MTV programming for Terminal Man to jack into. The body of the dead rock star mixed with sample shots of helicopter wreckage as foci of maximum sexual arousal and adolescent sex substitutes. Here we are now. Entertain us. Atrocity TV. Terminal in every room, but leaving open unforeseen feedback possibilities. Electron swarm cathode ray tube. Why would such an instrument of sedation, of such hypnotic normativism, of prisoner discipline be harnessed under charges of violent induction? Because while it sedates, it seduces and bleeds. Biomorphic horror rides solarizing atrocity newsreels into the DMZ of the arcade, fusing brain core, nerve cortex, and movement image on the gluttonous screens of the console. Virtual war data bleeding out of commercial control. Washing amphibious pioneers of the end of the state onto the fractal subdivisions of coastlines of imperial glacis. Radioactive surplus value leaks into autopoetic black magic. Voodoo through incendiary turbulence. Uptown, the Hezbollah strap on nitroglycerin for all to see, and then vanish. Pure energy. Mobile rapid response units of space invaders are re-territorialized on the static black hole system of fire bases, waiting in the dark to be picked off limb by limb by limb, paralyzing the suburbs of Necropolis. The neutralizing space in which the loss of movement for invaders means prolonged exposure to the jungle, infection, death. The last organs fall off leper Earth, revealing sockets of mangled circuitry and coagulated blood, dispersing out through transcarcerative, planned nominal veins. Drug rush, energy rush, artillery through the arteries. If you want the news, follow the CNN Rapid Deployment Force. 1992, Los Angelian White Magic. The anti-Panther late 60s love-in between CIA and mafioso mutates into hallucinations of danger. Heroin goes triadic. The veins ice over and crack. South Central and distributed samplers transport the afterglow of micro-fascist stick bundle mobilizations. Flashpoint. Not flat to the floor speed, but the consistency of catatonic lightning. A martial art, yes, but remember, the war machine only gets frisky when strata blubbernauts construct colonic irrigation for flash flood insurgency. Undercover cop endoscopic infiltration. A war machine in every cell. Pause. Quantize. Loop the star-shaped Rodney King KKK assemblage and insert into Wagnerian four-to-the-floor LAPD soundscape. Facing the strata, everything feeds back towards the spectacular archaism of sovereign phase penalty. Red alert, unspecified danger, obey your focal length. They all look the same. White magic. Zoom to the dark side. Control X terminated. Slow motion baton swings incite riot response. Programmed. Bruised black shin replay. Real-time footage, kicking habits booting up. Decapitated king. Body of the condemned. Control X. Posed broken doll, black and white photo. Blood traces pulped video flash. Black and blue lines. Execute control command.